Within a century after Li Ye's death, there lived a Daoist nun by the name of Yu Xuanji. She's perhaps best known as subject of a popular tale of how she ended up being executed for murder. As the story goes, one day Yu Xuanji is hosting a gathering in her home. One of her male guests goes to relieve himself in the courtyard behind her house. He notices some flies gathering in a particular spot, and when he looks more closely, sees what look like bloodstains. There's a smell. The guest leaves and tells his servant about the smell. The servant confides in his brother, a member of the police, and who also apparently happens to bear a grudge against Yu Xuanji for some reason. He gathers a group of officers with shovels and spades, returns to Yu Xuanji's yard, and unearths a corpse. When she's taken before the authorities, Yu Xuanji confesses to murdering her maid Lu Qiao and burying her in the garden. Some months later, still in her 20s, she's executed. This story captured the public imagination. Yu Xuanji, you see, was a famous poetess. Like Xu Tao, her reputation also benefited from her association with a famous poet of the late Tang, Wen Tingyun, of whom she was a sometime companion. As a young woman, Yu Xuanji had first taken the path of becoming a concubine. She entered the house of a high government official, the censor Li Yi. But Li Yi's wife became jealous of her, and the relationship ended. Subsequently, she expresses her complaint at her treatment in a poem alternately titled To the Neighbor Girl or To Secretary Li Yi. To the Neighbor Girl or To Secretary Li Yi. Shy of the sun, I block it with silken sleeve. Spring worries, too lazy to rise for my toilet. Priceless jewels are easily attained, but a man with a heart is hard to find. Onto the pillow, tears fall unseen. Amidst flowers, a heart secretly breaks. When I could watch Song-yu, what use to regret Wang Chang? Song-yu and Wang Chang in the final couplet both stand for attractive men. Song-yu was the romantic protagonist of a pre-Qin long poem attributed to him. He successfully maintained his distance from a great beauty who watched him for 3 years from over a wall. Anyone who would inspire such dogged pursuit by a great beauty at that must be an extraordinary catch indeed. The implication of the last 2 lines is that one should not expend too many tears on an ordinary, if attractive man, when one has the potential to woo an extraordinary one. With these references, Yu Xuanji is deprecating her former lover and exhorting both herself and the unnamed neighbor girl not to waste time pining after someone who's not worth the trouble. After being cast off by Li Yi, and while still in only her late teens, Yu Xuanji took up the life of a Daoist nun and went to live in a convent. As a former concubine, her only other choice may have been to become a lower-level concubine in a large household or a courtesan. And in fact, many Daoist nuns were treated as de facto courtesans. They were sought after by men for their intellectual and literary companionship and enjoyed a level of social and sexual freedom that made them morally suspect in the eyes of many. The 10th century writer Huang Fu-mei describes Yu Xuanji's lifestyle as follows in his likely fictionalized account of her life in Sanshui Xiaodu. And I'm reading from Jean Kelly's translation of that story here. Her verses describing the delights of love were widely known among the literati. She herself was by nature as frail as the orchid and of a free disposition. She had numerous amorous attachments with the young gallants of the capital, who would compete with one another to win her favor. Some would visit her bringing wine, and she would often sing verses to the accompaniment of the lute. Knowing something of Yu Xuanji's background and lifestyle, let's return to our true crime story. When we left her, Yu Xuanji had just been arrested for murder. The full story, again according to the at least partly fictionalized account in Sanshui Xiaodu, goes back some months before her arrest, when Yu Xuanji had left her maid Lu Qiao at home while she attended a social gathering nearby. She instructed Lu Qiao to tell any visitors who came by where she was, perhaps hoping they would come to join her. When she returned from her gathering, Lu Qiao told her that a man had indeed stopped by, but then left on hearing she was not in. Suspecting her maid of having invited this person inside behind her back, Yu Xuanji relentlessly questioned Lu Qiao, then stripped her and proceeded to beat her to death. Interestingly, there are several indications in the story that Yu Xuanji was still viewed with sympathy by both her contemporaries and posterity, despite her association with the murder. The suggestion that the person who initiated the investigation had a grudge against her for refusing to lend him money casts the instruments of justice in the case in a negative light. Further, we're told in court circles there were many who spoke on her behalf. The city authorities reported the case to the emperor. In the autumn, nevertheless, she was executed. The implication is either that the charges against her were trumped up, or that because of her talent and recognition, she might have been deserving of mercy or special treatment. This sympathetic view of Yu Xuanji reflects the ambivalence with which the culture of the time regarded a woman of talent. She was at once to be admired and to be suspected. The association of literary talent with public availability made literary women prone to social censure, even, as we see here, while enjoying the widespread admiration. At the same time, her talent and abilities sometimes earned her special consideration. Yu Xuanji was not unconscious of the difficulty posed by being an intellectual literary woman. In one of her most famous poems, she happens to pass the place where the names of those who have successfully passed the latest civil service examinations are being written on the wall in calligraphy. And the silver hooks of line 2 of the poem refer to calligraphy strokes. Visiting the South Tower of Chongzhen Monastery, I see the names of successful examination candidates being written on the wall. Cloudy peaks fill my sight, a fine spring day. Row by row, the silver hooks appear from under their fingers. I hate these silken garments that hide the lines of my verse, and look up with vain envy at the names on the list. The poem's title situates the speaker at Chongzhen Monastery, a tall building in Chang'an where crowds would gather to see the names of the successful examination candidates posted. One can almost feel Yu Xuanji's longing as she sees one name after another written in fine calligraphy for all to see, knowing hers can never appear there. Yu Xuanji is well aware of her abilities and recognizes that were it not for her gender, she would have had no difficulty competing with her male contemporaries. This poem is one of Yu Xuanji's most well-known, probably because of the depth of longing it expresses so succinctly and effectively. I hate these silken garments that I have to wear as a woman, and that hide the lines of my verse. She seems here to identify so strongly with her literary talent that she feels the trappings of her gender, including her feminine attire, cover her talent like a garment. I look up with vain envy at the names on the list, she says, knowing that some of them are probably not as talented poets as she is. In conclusion, in these 3 episodes, we've seen that despite their central role in literary and social life, the lives of literary women in the Tang were precarious and complex. On the one hand, these talented women succeeded in crossing the public-private divide and putting their talents to use. They enjoyed a degree of social freedom and influence that was not available to their more conventional and properly secluded sisters. Lower-class women placed into the entertainment industry could achieve a lifestyle and influence far beyond their birth. Courtesans like Xue Tao and Li Ye were more than a merely decorative presence in the most prestigious male gatherings. They were active participants in the give and take of poetic production. On the other hand, a courtesan was always at the mercy of others. If she obtained a powerful patron, that patron could easily dismiss her. and women's very ability to take part in public life made them a threat, potentially even to the well-being of the imperial court and the nation. Their very influence made them subject to suspicion and often ended in their death. Women like Shang Guanwanar, and to a lesser extent Li Ye, could rise to positions of great influence, but they could never be masters of their own fates, although admittedly Empress Wu was an exception. It's only thanks to this level of freedom, though, that any examples of women's writing at all have come down to us from the Tang. The poems we do have give us a window into the lives and aspirations of some very remarkable personalities. It will be quite some time before women of more respectable classes will begin to produce, circulate, and collect their writing without fear of being stigmatized. When they did, they were standing on the shoulders of these women, who by virtue of their position outside the inner quarters, and through their relationships and poetic exchanges with the literary figures of their time, demonstrated the intellectual and literary abilities of women, and laid the foundation for the acceptance of those abilities in the culture as a whole. Well, that's it for this episode, and I hope you've enjoyed this little window into the lives and works of these talented women of the Tang.
Let us thank Dr. San Mei for such a stimulating talk. This talk concludes her topic on women and poetry in the Tang Dynasty. To learn more about this topic from Dr. San Mei, you may read her chapter in How to Read Chinese Poetry, a Guided Anthology. I hope you enjoyed today's talk. Let us relax and listen to a reading of the poems in Mandarin by Zhao Wenxuan.
赠灵女，于玄机。休日遮罗袖，愁春懒起妆。一求无价宝，难得有新郎。枕上前垂泪，花间暗断肠。自能窥宋玉，何必恨王昌？由崇祯观南楼笃兴极地题名处，于玄机。云峰满目放春情，粒粒银钩指下生。自恨罗衣掩诗句，举头空羡榜中名。